My name is Ken Leroux. I served in Vietnam and then later in a peacekeeping mission in Kosovo. I was in the Army. I was actually in for 4 years of active duty, and in the beginning, and then 36 years in the National Guard. And as a guardsman, that's when I went to Kosovo. I was a CW4, Chief Warrant Officer. No, I enlisted. All I ever wanted to do was fly. Went to college for a while unsuccessfully, and I remember sitting there on the edge of my bed reading Flying magazine, and the Army had an article that said, high school graduates can be pilots. So I went to see my Army recruiter and joined. I was 19, incredibly enough. Really naive, had no idea what it meant that they were going to send me to war and all that, but I knew that I wanted to fly, so they let me. Well, when we were in Vietnam, the average day was you go to bed at night at whatever time, and in the morning they wake you up 5:30, 6 o'clock, and say, hey, Mr. Leroux, you're going to be doing this, or you're going to be either resupplying somebody, or you'll be involved in these combat assaults, moving troops from one spot to another, where they found out that there were NVA, North Vietnamese Army, or the Viet Cong. And that's basically how Vietnam was fought, that we would pick people up, move them here, and then they'd look around. If they found anybody, they would try to kill them, obviously. And then when things calmed down, we'd move them somewhere else. But we also resupplied them in each of those places. So we'd get up and we'd go pre-flight our helicopter, we'd go out and fly whatever mission it was for the day. And then we'd come back. In the evenings, we'd hang around. I had a stereo. I'd put my headphones on and ride home to my wife, my then-to-be, or soon-to-be wife, and or we'd sit around and watch the one TV. We'd all be standing around or sitting around outside watching the one little TV, watching Laugh-In or something like that. So it was fairly routine, but most days were fun. In Kosovo was actually a nice way to end my career. I did that in 2004 to 2006, and we were there just in case the Serbs and Albanian people who lived there started going at each other. Back in the late 90s, they actually had a war where when Yugoslavia broke up, they had the Serbs and Albanians kind of fighting for power, and there were a lot of mass murders and all that stuff. And the UN came in and put a stop to it. And ever since then, there have been people from all kinds of countries keeping the peace. We're just a presence, and if they started going at ech other, they know that we would come in and we would stop that from going on before innocent people were hurt. So it was just a matter of being there, and most of the time we carried visitors from the United States from one place to another, and we trained with people from Yugoslavia, from Germany, from France, from Italy, from Serbia, from Greece, from all kinds of places, and we would train their soldiers to work with our aviation. Well, in Vietnam, pretty much every day was a really good day if they weren't shooting at us. The flying was exciting, was great fun, either carrying lots of heavy stuff into this little LZ where you had to fly down into between the trees and drop off the stuff, or if we're carrying troops, then we're flying very tight formations, and it's all physically challenging, and it was really great fun. Worst days were the days that they shot at us. I remember one time going into the A Shau Valley in Vietnam. were carrying troops up in the into the mountains, and actually the helicopter lost power. I didn't stick around to see if it had been shot or just hadn't had a problem, and we settled down into the trees, climbed out. Nobody was hurt. We all got out, grabbed the stuff out of the helicopter, climbed up the hill, got on board another helicopter, and left. That was not the best day. That was other days. There were very few times actually that were bad days that they shot at us, because the First Cav knew how to fight that kind of war. Mm-hmm. Well, it was funny you should ask that, because I went in on a delay program, which meant each month they would see if they had a slot in flight school for you. And so it took them 3 months to actually find me a slot after I quit my job. So I'm sitting around the pool, goofing off all summer long. And it was a rude awakening when I got to basic training and had all these crazy guys screaming and yelling and cussing at you, and all the physical demands and all that sort of stuff that had I been smarter and not quite so naive, I would have been better physically prepared for it. I know people today that go in the military, they usually work out a lot before and run. And I just thought it'd be like another fraternity party, you know, and didn't turn out to be that way. I was pretty surprised by the way we were treated and all that. Shouldn't have been, but I was. Well, it's funny. I came back and from Vietnam, and I was still in, and I instructed in helicopters in Fort Rucker, Alabama. Came back into a military area, and I didn't get that sense that a lot of guys who got out of the Army straight from Vietnam and came back to their block and kind of experienced a lot of negative feeling about, you know, the war and all that stuff. Then when I was 23 when I got out. I was married, and I came back to a regular life and never really, you know, dwelled on it. So I wasn't affected the way a lot of veterans were. You know, they talk about now, there's still people who were affected by the way supposedly we were treated when we got back. But I just, like I said, I came back and married my sweetheart and instructed down there, came back from there, went to college, and went on with my life. And so it was, you know, just a fairly gentle transition into real life. Well, I was really, really upset with the way that it did when we gave up what we were doing. I was very bitter about all that. I know a lot of people who went over there and died and were hurt, and for what we believed in, the domino theory of the Russians and the Chinese, just communism taking over and over and over, which is what we were there for. And then when the government decided to just give up, I was really, really bitter and really upset. Well, I stayed as a helicopter pilot. Like I said, I instructed for a while, flying for people flying instruments, and then when I got out, I got on to in the National Guard in Pennsylvania, and was flying various helicopters, and did that mostly just flying for a long time. Then I got into the safety aspect, became a safety officer, and I became a little bit more administrative, looking after the putting on presentations for safety and making sure that everything was okay. And that was how I ended my career as a safety officer. But I was still flying the whole time. I got a total of 6,000 hours. It was incredible fun. If anything, I guess it made me more patriotic and more hating of the concept of war at all. When you carry somebody in your helicopter who's a young kid who's dead, or you carry somebody who's really severely injured, you realize it's not just like TV or movies. You know, that no matter how gory they are on there, it's not the same as it is in real life. And I think that the love of life and how important that is for everybody is really strong. And I hate the fact that we have to be at war if we do. And I hate the fact that young boys, like the one who just died from Hopatcong, and girls are going over there and they're getting injured and killed, that there ought to be peace. And I just don't get it. No, not as such. They have reunions of the Vietnam Helicopter Pilots Association, but it's always over the 4th of July when I have other things going on. And we have, the 1st Cavalry Division has had reunions. But no, but I am a member of the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars here. So we don't really tell war stories and stuff, but we have that sense of camaraderie that I guess you'd get from a reunion. We have guys from Korea, one guy still left from World War II, incredibly enough, and we have guys from Vietnam and guys from the the current struggles all over, and that kind of is kind of like a reunion every month where we get together and we share that bond that if you haven't been there you don't quite have, and so it's kind of a reminder of what we've done before. The memory, again, the memory of the incredible fun I had flying the helicopters. That's the coolest. And also the people. I've got some dear friends that I still visit and keep in contact with that I met during the military. And again, just like anything you do together, whether it's you're on the same soccer team or track team, folks in the military have that bond, and we share something, having flown together or having been away together, and that's the coolest thing. Well, I'd just like to add that if there's any way that we can avoid, and you guys anybody who's watching this can avoid having to have a war, or that if we can work toward peace, that's the answer. The military, being in the military is a terrible thing that we have to do that. So I think, just I'm going to pretend that I'm a Miss America contest, and the most important thing in life is to work toward peace. Whether we have to do that by helping other people, or we do that by minding our own business, but peace is the answer. Don't be sucked in by the video and think that war is cool, because it isn't. And I want everybody to support our troops, because they need as much support as we can give, whether it's sending them stuff or writing them or just supporting them when they come home in whatever condition they're in, knowing their life has been changed and they need all of our help to survive.